think let's start with, is there a review of the public hearing procedures? Michaela, do we have to do that this evening?
No.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
All right, let's start off with, please, approval of the minutes from our last 14th of July meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Babs. May I have a second?
Second.
Very well, thank you. Let's make this official and vote in order. Babs?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Aiden is not with us this evening. Kenton?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Michael?
Abstain.
Very good. And Amanda?
Aye.
Very good. It's unanimous with one abstention, so the meetings are approved as noted. I do not have a report this evening, and Babs, you had indicated you do not have a report either. Michaela, is there a report from the director this evening?
I do have something to report. Aiden Lilly isn't here this evening, but she will not be on the land. Aiden Lilly is not here this evening. She had a conflict, and she will not be on the Landmark Commission any longer because we have hired her as a senior planner. Park City is very sad about that, but
You
we
look
find
very
it to
sad.
be quite a win. So she starts on the 15th. We're really excited to hopefully pick up more policy work and have Aiden's mind. And as you know, she's familiar with our processes and the zoning ordinance and you all. So she'll be sitting at that table next time. So congratulations to Aiden if she's watching. That was my big announcement.
Are you accepting other applications?
Position is closed, Kenton, but we do have an associate planner position that will be posted soon. You might be overqualified for that position, but you may get an interview. So
Very well.
thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Michaela. Let's go to public meetings. The commission will hear public meetings, public comments not pertaining to items listed on the agenda. And Cindy, I think you had indicated you'd like to speak.
My name is still Cindy Cromer, and I don't have prepared remarks tonight because it was too hard to write. And I really don't know how to say this except to say I was deeply disturbed by your hearing at the last meeting for Station 424. I was disturbed by how the contributory resources on 7th East were treated, considered. I was concerned about the priority given to the base zoning and the point system. And because your last meeting and this one have occurred so close together, and I have been rather much like a one-armed paper hanger, I have not written my arguments down. But I have gone back in time, and I have not yet found a decision that I disagreed with so profoundly. So I wanted to let you know that, and there will be some written comments forthcoming. I think we have to have a discussion about the relationship between the base zone and the overlay zone. I will put something on paper especially about that. I do recognize that in places the Central City Historic District is rather threadbare, but there are 3 historic resources in a row on that frontage, and I believe that eventually, if it survives, the Xerox building should be considered in the future on the corner of 5th South and 7th East is the Xerox building, currently the offices of Sitla. And there's also another one in there, the former Fendel's Ice Cream Parlor, now the pizza place. Anyway, I just wanted to express that to you. I'm, as usual, running late. You know that about me. but I will get back to you with something in writing, especially about the relationship between the base zone and the overlay zone, because we have 2 more big projects coming at you fairly soon in the Central City Historic District. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Did you receive any prior to the meeting?
We have not. Thank
Very
you.
well. All right, let's open the meeting to our public hearings. We have 2 issues before us tonight: window and door replacement, and a minor alteration for garage and ADU. Let's all right, let's begin with item number 1, which is the window and door replacement at approximately 1124 East, 200 South. And Kelsey, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not yet. No. Okay. Is this close enough, Babs? Okay. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. Good evening. This is a request from William Patton, the property owner of the property located at 1124 East, 2nd South, for a certificate of appropriateness to replace a total of 10 windows and the front door. The subject property is a contributing structure within the University Local Historic District. Due to the it's okay. Due to the 4 of the requested windows and their location on the primary elevation, staff is recommending a partial approval and a partial denial in this case. The proposed replacement windows are a Pella aluminum clad. So the property located at 1124 East has had some minor changes over the years. However, it is considered contributing to the district. The alterations include the removal of the transom window in that central window combination. It's a stained glass window. It has been replaced with just a clear glass. And the columns and the balustrades have also been removed. In regard to the current request, 4 of the proposed replacement windows are located on the primary elevation, which is north facing. The windows shown here in the photo with the red arrows are the windows being requested to be replaced. Staff believes that these windows are original to the structure and are readily visible from the public way. This is a current photo. Yeah, so this previous photo was from Zillow. This is the current photo. This is an additional photo that illustrates the damage to the lower left sash and the present condition of the windows. In line with city policy, staff believes that these 4 windows could be rehabilitated with a lower sash replacement. The additional windows requested for replacement include the east and west elevations. As illustrated in these photos, there are 3 windows on the west and then 2 windows on the east. These windows are not visible from the public way. Additionally, excuse me, the southern elevation has a 3-part window that the applicant is also requesting for replacement. This is not visible from the public way. Staff recommends approval of both the southern, eastern, and the western elevations. The applicant is also seeking to replace the front door. Sorry, I lost my spot. One moment. The applicant suggests that the door is not original because of the frame, and the door does not fit within the frame. With the archive photo that I showed earlier, it is actually difficult to see whether or not this door is original. And with a lack of evidence, staff is supporting the replacement of the door with the proposed door, which is a full light. As far as our recommendations, like I mentioned earlier, it's a in-part denial and in-part approval. Staff is recommending that the Historic Landmark Commission deny the requested 4 front windows and approve in part the windows located on the east, west, south elevation, as well as the front door. I can answer any questions at this time.
Just to be clear, there's 10 windows, 6 windows by your report, they were fine, and the door was fine.
Correct.
That there are 4 windows on the primary elevation that are at issue.
Correct.
Very good. All right.
Yeah. Is that under the porch? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So Kelsey, what if the front windows are recommended to be retained, what is the solution to make them work?
There are a few contractors locally that have the expertise to rehabilitate windows. Preservation Utah manages that contractor list.
Mm-hmm. But
So that-
rebuilding the existing windows is what staff would be the direction that would be preferred.
That's in line with city policy. The next step would be a potential sash replacement, just a wood sash kit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any other questions for staff? Okay.
Commissioner DeLay asked if staff would support a sash kit. Staff has supported sash kits in the past. It's when there is a good information and solid evidence of beyond repair, essentially. So obviously the lower left sash that's missing and broken, that would be an eligible sash kit. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying these are really 120 years old? These are original windows? I mean, the report says they appear to be original windows. Do we know that?
Based on my site visit and based on pictorial evidence, that would be my assessment. Any additional questions for staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll turn the time over to the applicant.
Next, we'll hear from the applicant.
Hi, my name is William Patton. I go by Bill. I've never used one of these. Can you hear me? Do I really need this? Can I talk without it? Okay. Because you guys are recording this. My name is Bill Patton. Back in summer, fall of 2020, we purchased that house.
September, yeah.
We shopped around a lot. My wife and I are looking to retire here. Our daughter here, so my daughter Noah, who's currently going to school at the University of Utah. She is staying in the house while my wife and I finish our tour of duty, which will end in 3 years. We are currently stationed in Lagos, Nigeria, which I flew back for this hearing and to oversee the procedures here. Our plan is to modernize that house with using you guys as a blueprint to maintain the integrity of the historical parts of it. We went to great lengths to do our due diligence of various window people, and I used Chris Thornton, who sold us the Pella windows, assuring us that these windows will be same in kind, custom made, will look almost identical to what is there, same colors. Those windows are not the originals. If you saw in the old picture, that was a stained glass window above. That is no longer there. Those windows are paper thin. Those windows have been, the window panes themselves have been replaced because they're not the old traditional beveled wavy glass. They are not. They're paper thin. And the picture with the broken window was her dog Oreo pawed the window, and it broke like that and sliced his paw open. So those windows are very inadequate. The ones in the back are, you can see daylight through them. Two other ones on the side have been redone by the previous owner, who was a self-proclaimed wood craftsman, and made those windows and put them in on two sides. And he also did the same thing with the front door, which does not fit. There's a probably 3/4 of an inch gap on the front, probably 1/4 inch on both sides, and probably a good 1/2 inch on the bottom where that door, there is daylight through this, so that door. And if you looked at that front door, it's a very nice looking door, but he obviously chiseled at it and made it customized for what he wanted. So that door does not fit. So we want to replace that door. So we are replacing it in the kind, highest standard available. Our bill is well over $30,000 for those windows. They need to be done. Those windows are totally inadequate. Storm windows would just put a Band-Aid over the wound. They would not look as good. And again, we did not buy this house to flip it and sell it. We bought this house because my wife and I want to stay here. We love the mountains. She was born in Montana. We love the mountains. Utah's a little friendlier weather than Montana winters. And we love it here. This will be our home until she puts us away. And so we want to do things right. We want to do this right. We're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to be energy efficient. And this is just the start of it. When we bought the house, it was inadequately insulated. My daughter and I spent a whole day, about $1,000 worth of fiberglass, and insulated the roof, sealed that up. We put a new furnace in, new air conditioning unit. Again, state-of-the-art, energy efficient. We need to button this house up and seal these windows, and then from there we're going to redo some minor cosmetics inside to modernize it and to make it efficient and to make it, a livable home. There's currently not a interior stairway to the basement. We want to put that in. So we're going through all causes to, and all, we're not making shortcuts. We're doing it right for the right reasons. It's our home, and we really need these windows. And again, looking through everything, they're of the kind. So these windows it'll look exactly like that, and if not better, because they'll all be green. And I ask you guys, drive by and take a look at those windows, and you tell me if they're adequate for the 21st century that we live in, that those windows are adequate, and that putting some storm windows over them would fix the problem. So that's really all I have to present.
Very well.
Any
Commissioners,
questions? I don't know.
questions for either the applicant or for from staff?
Can we add additional comments?
Yes, go ahead. There's a bit of time remaining of the 10 minutes allotted. Yes.
I just wanted to touch on the broken window.
Can you get closer to the mic, please?
I just wanted to touch on the broken window. I brought just the initial vet bill from my dog. So these are dangerous windows. My dog, all he had to do was jump up, and it shattered the window, and it cut almost his entire pad off. And we spent a whole day in the vet, and it was a horrible experience, and it was a direct result of these windows. I have two 2-year-old nephews. I have friends also with toddlers, and I've seen them hit things with a greater force than my dog jumped up at that window. I do not want to be responsible for an injured toddler because of how rickety these windows I could say. I don't believe they're original. If you go back to look at that stained glass, that's no longer there. I believe when they replace that stained glass, the current window panes we have are, like my dad was saying, is they're very, very thin. Like they're like maybe 2 centimeters thin, and it took a very light push from my dog to have it break on him. And I'm we had to, at the moment, all of our windows are blocked off, so they're rendered useless at the moment because we can't let my dog go near them. We can't let toddlers go near them. So we basically can't be at any of our windows at the moment because I'm afraid that if you be around any 2-year-old, you take your eyes off from them for 1 second, they're hitting something, and so we basically have to block all our windows off whenever we have a child come over, and we have to basically do that with my dog too, because I don't trust these windows to not have another accident where they break and they almost cut my dog's paw off. So,
Very good. For recording purposes, can you identify yourself, please?
Oh, I'm Noah Patton. I am Bill Patton's daughter. I live at the house at the moment while they are in Nigeria. So I am the caretaker while they are out of the country.
Also in school, she's going to University of Utah,
And
working on her
Any other
degree.
comments from you?
Addition to that, so to help with the winters and summers, those windows are currently covered with Home Depot plastic, blow dried to help insulate, which is a nice word. Again, we can't really use those windows. We can't open them. We can't close them. There's not a whole lot we can do with them. We're kind of stuck with these windows, and they need to be changed. They need upgrading. And I mean, they're totally inadequate. And again, if you looked at the wood, the wood has been painted over multiple times. There's nicks, there's gouges, there's decay. They're 120 years old. They've served their purpose, and it's time, I believe, to move on. And we are planning on moving on in the right direction by replacing them in the kind. So they'll be as good as new.
Very well.
Chris, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, so my name's Chris. I'm a residential replacement consultant for Pella Windows and Doors. We do a ton of work in the historical district, so I'm surprised to be here, honestly. The number of times that our windows have been, actually ones that I've installed, have been approved, is numerous. So Pella's pretty much the go-to in the Salt Lake Valley for historically accurate windows that are also efficient. When I first met this family last November, it was freezing cold and they were huddled, I kid you not, in their house. I think Noah was even wearing a jacket, so they're woefully inefficient. I've assessed over 1,200 homes worth of windows here in the Salt Lake Valley, many of those very old homes, and it's my professional opinion that these are not original windows because they don't match the profile or the construction type of windows from the time period this house was built. I would postulate that they were probably replaced in the 50s or 60s based on the glass. So, sash replacement, the idea of replacing a single sash is not really, it's not a respected method in our industry, and the reason for that is that it's a terrible Band-Aid, right? I have to go and fabricate a square based on what is most certainly no longer a square frame, right? So it's going to get in there. It's probably not going to operate well. It's not going to seal well, which means it's going to let in water, which means it's going to let in mold, which means bugs are going to get in. I mean, it causes all sorts of problems. So it's definitely a Band-Aid. Really, the only way to move forward in a situation like this to fully weatherproof the front of the house is just to do a full replacement with a modern waterproofed installation. We use a 4-layer waterproofing process. It's the best in the industry. And on top of that, I can definitely attest that these windows are specifically designed for this sort of application. You know, they call it aluminum clad. It's not really aluminum. It's mostly wood, right? The whole frame is wood. The interior is all wood. There's a thin layer of aluminum cladding on the outside to sort of protect it from the elements, which you really need in Utah because it gets really hot and then it gets really cold. It gets dry and then it gets wet. It's a terrible environment for wood, right? So you really do. And you can actually see on their windows how it's sort of rotted out and deteriorated over the years. So you really kind of need that exterior protection. That said, we took great pains to match the colors, right, and to keep it consistent, because that's what we do. We do this professionally. So we're going to put the best possible windows and the best looking windows in the front. It'll be safer. It'll be warmer. it'll actually be livable, I think. So, and that needs to happen everywhere in the house. It can't just happen on 3 walls. So, in order for it to be really energy efficient. So, that's all I have for you.
Especially the northern exposure, that's where you're going to get the worst weather, I mean, from the north.
They're in atrocious shape. It's terrible. I felt bad. I don't often feel bad walking into someone's house, right? Like a lot of times it's just like, oh, we need an aesthetic update or we need some kind of, but here it's terrible. So that's why I'm here.
Very good. Commissioners, any question for the applicant?
Yeah, question please. The windows that you're proposing, do they match the existing ones exactly and where the mullions are?
They do, absolutely. So they all open the same way. They all have the mullions in the same places. Again, we knew, that some sort of conversation like this would be taking place, so we took care of all that stuff right up front.
Mm-hmm. And maybe I was mistaken, but I thought I saw in the document there was some reference to Impervia fiberglass windows. Is that around the
I don't believe
other
we did
side?
any fiberglass windows.
I don't think we did.
Maybe I was
either.
mistaken
I don't
on
think
that.
so. It's possible that we did it in the bathroom. Wood doesn't tend to do well in showers, but that's one of the side windows that's been approved.
I
Yeah.
might have misread that. Okay, thank you.
No, it's okay. It would definitely be a bathroom window if it was. So, yeah.
And let me add one thing. My wife, who works for the State Department, is a project engineer. Went to great lengths with Chris and 2 other window people. We've done our due diligence. She knows how, she's been doing this she graduated in 1985 from Ohio State as an engineer. This is what she does. She's a project director for the State Department of the United States. And I just want you guys, we went to great lengths to make sure that these are same in kind. And Chris has assured us over and over that they are. They went to great lengths. They're still being built. This was back in November, December of 2021. Last year. It's hard to keep track of the days. And so it's taken them months to build these windows. So they're built to exact specifications.
I have a question.
So.
So you said that you have put easily 1,200 homes.
I have assessed 1,200.
Okay.
So I've been in 1,200 homes looking specifically at their windows.
You're aware of the rules and regulations for Salt Lake City for historic properties?
I can't say that I am specifically.
What about the rules and regulations for windows in historic districts?
I don't have any source for which I would have learned that yet.
Okay. And you said they are aluminum clad?
Aluminum clad, yes, but that...
I don't know what that means. Does that mean it is aluminum on the outside?
The proposal is aluminum clad.
Mm.
Can I show you a picture?
Sure. Is it aluminum on the outside?
Yes.
Profile.
Okay, so
So the window itself is all wood.
Right.
The interior is all wood. As you
Yes.
can see, there's a very thin line around the outside that just
Sir, can we get your we need to have a microphone for you.
yeah.
If you could hand her that.
Let's pass this around.
Yeah, we'll look.
Okay, thank you. We just want to get you on the record.
Also, could I say something real quick? As I'm sitting here and I'm staring at this photo of the archive photo, the window that's on the porch, that looks like stained glass. That, if you can see it, see that right there? That looks like stained glass to me. I haven't really looked at this photo that much, but maybe I'm wrong, but sorry, I was kind of just staring at this picture, and I just wanted to point that out, that kind of looks like stained glass in that window, which also is no longer there.
Do you want to take a look?
Sorry, I just was kind of looking at that and wondering what that was.
All right, let's go back. Babs, did he answer your question?
He did.
Very good. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant?
Have you talked to a window restoration contractor?
No, we did not. We did not want to mess with that. Again, we did not want to put a Band-Aid over a wound. We wanted new state-of-the-art energy-efficient windows.
Can I
And
make
that's what we shopped for, and that's what we wanted. Before we did not know, after purchased after sitting down with him and several others and then finalizing with Chris, we did not know that we needed approval from the Natural Historical Society. We did not know that. So we have already purchased these windows, and they are being made as we speak.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
On that question? Working in this industry, the likelihood of finding a contractor who would take on a job this small, extraordinarily small. And I mean,
no,
it's
I mean,
just-
I know some, so I don't. I mean,
okay. Well, I mean,
I'm an architect. Like I work with them as well, so I don't.
it would take on a 4-window job.
Yeah,
to restore them.
absolutely.
Actually,
Okay.
we have several architects here, and yeah, I
Good
think
to
we're
know.
all really familiar with windows. It's
Okay.
kind of our expertise as well.
No kidding.
Well, a question to you guys, wouldn't you guys as a society, or that's probably not the right word. Probably not. As a committee to preserve houses, that if we put a brand-new state-of-the-art window that matched in the kind, would help preserve that house for another 100 years down the road.
Thanks.
As opposed to slapping on something else.
Okay.
I mean, that was our thinking. This is why we did what we did, as opposed to saying, yeah, well, let's put storm windows on. You know, if we didn't care about the house, if we wanted to flip it, if we wanted to
No, we-
rent it to some college kids,
appreciate
we
that.
wouldn't care. But we plan on living there until we're old and gray and are put under 6 feet under.
Also,
That is our plan.
the storm windows don't address the issue of the interior side of the windows that injured my dog and will most likely injure another dog or a toddler. That's what my main concern is that if you put storm windows, that's not addresses that safety problem, because this is a safety problem too.
Very
And
well. All right, seeing no other questions from the commissioners, it's time to open this to public hearing. Public,
Thank you.
and Cindy, I think you wanted to speak to this issue?
Well, I'm a little over 100 pounds, but I've been in there with the burly contractors at all 4 of the historic window workshops that have occurred in Salt Lake City. I always like to set reasonable expectations for the contractors who work for me, and so I go to the trainings. There have been 4, and they have generated quite a few people who do historic windows in Salt Lake, in addition to the company that's well-known that has operated here for quite a while. I have also, as part of my business, done single sash replacements, which was very cost-effective in one of my rental properties. I think the issue with the broken glass probably has to do with single-strength glass. What I found in my not-so-well-maintained properties was that frequently the lower sash broke, and single-strength glass was used, and that is not adequate for anything in terms of normal usage. Ironically, in the 3rd window workshop I went to, which also had a storm window component, one of my favorite attendees lives right across the street from this property. He built storm windows for his house. They are quite beautiful. So my point is that the resources in Salt Lake are actually increasing every few years, because these workshops have occurred. The last one I went to was at the Preservation Conference on a Saturday. It was well attended, maxed out in terms of registration. I think there are other ways to approach this for the windows on the front facade. The northern bay windows have probably sustained more weathering because of their exposure, but I think that the windows sheltered east of the door should be in better condition. Storm windows can be interior or exterior storms. Both are possible in terms of protecting people, dogs, children on the interior. But I am disturbed about the recommendation that the new door be approved. I really think that a panel door or a more decorative door is appropriate for this house. It is late Victorian. I think that's my time. And comparing it to other similar houses in the neighborhood, I don't think a plain single glass, single light door that, I just don't think it's a match for the house, which has more decoration on it. And the door that's there may not be original, but I don't think the replacement proposed is appropriate. Thanks.
Very well, thank you. Are there any other public comments that we received concerning this? Any other public comments in the room? All right, let me go ahead and close the public hearing. No. Well, we'll close the public hearing, and next we'll have a rebuttal of the applicant to anything that has been said in the public hearing.
That door is not the original door. It was made by, I think, right. And that being said, we could feasibly get an approved panel door and put that door that we purchased, because he did the same thing with the back door, which is even worse. But that's not as big as a problem because it's surrounded by a partial porch. So we can, and my wife and I talked about this, we can feasibly get an approved door that is suitable to this committee and put that in the front and take the door that we have already purchased and install that in the back. So that is,
Very well, thank you.
we are willing to work with you, with everything here. But again, I've said this from the get-go.
Very well.
It behooves me not to put brand-new state-of-the-art windows in the same kind in this house, especially where our climate is going these days. It's a problem. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right, let's move to executive session. This is... Let's open this up. This part of the meeting, just so everyone knows, this is closed to the applicant and to the public. So I want to start the discussion, and I want to break this down into parts. There are 10 windows. There are 6 windows that are not at issue. Correct? Okay. There's a door issue, or there's a door that is an issue that's been brought up, but the recommendation that's been given by staff that indicated that since the door was not original, the replacement would be acceptable as presented by the applicant. That's my understanding of this. What's a real issue, I believe, in addition to the door, which may or may not be an issue after discussion, has to do with the 4 windows that are on the primary elevation. So let's start with the easy ones. Everybody's in agreement that the 6 windows are fine. There's no discussion about those. Fair. So let's talk about the door since it's been brought up. Is there a discussion concerning the front door?
What's proposed is glass, yes?
What's proposed is a combination of wood and glass.
On the top?
No, it's hang on, I've got it here. And
It's full light.
exactly.
Yeah. Which
It's-
looks like a
it's-
bathroom door to me, but that's my taste. It does not look like it fits for this era. The onus for us, our job is to preserve historic properties and neighborhoods, and that is not indicative of a home of this era.
And correct me if I go astray here, Lindsay, because I'm going to ask you a question. Then it feels like that because the original door was not, because the door that was there was not original, the replacement of that door being something like what is it, this wooden glass, that's why it fell under the recommendation that that door that was presented by the applicant was acceptable.
That's correct. We try to, if something's not original, we try to find kind of a middle ground that's acceptable and still compatible with the property in the district.
And while thank you, what I somewhat agree with you that it doesn't look like a door that would be a front door to that structure.
Any of these in here, same
Right.
era.
Anyway, that was a recommendation. So Okay, that the door that was presented would be fine.
That's staff's recommendation. Yeah.
Fair enough. So, okay, I think that's just a question of fact, that we previously didn't have an issue with the door. Amanda, you had a question?
I was, if the windows to the right, looking at that picture to the right of the door, the other three there, if they had been vinyl at this point in time and the applicant would propose to replace those, it doesn't change the issue, correct? Similar to if it's not the original door, if they weren't original windows, we would still be looking, we're still looking to maintain that same Victorian look, correct?
We're trying to maintain the original character defining features. The windows, according to staff and our assessment, are original and they're character defining features. Had they been replaced with vinyl, this likely could have been an administrative approval for a Pella clad window. You're welcome.
Fair enough. Thank you. So I'm gonna ask, because John, I know that you do historical restoration, as do we. So I wanna ask for your opinion, please.
Wood windows are more durable than a lot of people will have you believe. They're a building material that can last indefinitely because they're repairable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree that the issue with the glass is a separate topic. I don't think we should kind of cut off our nose to spite our face on this. Like, either install tempered glass or install double thickness glass, quarter-inch glass rather
That's
than.
the issue?
If a dog busted through a window, I would think that there's a glazing issue there.
But the new windows are all going to be thicker.
Yeah, it's probably insulated glazing, I would assume. So to me, the safety issue is separate from what we're talking about. Like, I don't think that, and I understand that, there's, safety is a concern if you have infants and pets walking around. I understand that. I have a large picture window at my house, and it would be bad if that thing broke. But there's ways to mitigate that without replacing the windows. So, and I do think there's a good case for storms. I don't think that they're necessarily unattractive. They're also historically appropriate. Like, back in 1900, people put the storms on in the fall and put the screens on in the spring. That's just kind of part of the natural rhythm of the season. So that's kind of my opinion. Is I agree with staff that replacing the four windows on the front would be inappropriate.
Good. Commissioners, any other comments? Yes.
I'd like to make a comment. I kind of come down different on that. I look at the standard, the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Seems to me like, number one, the doors looks less historic than the windows. Number two, we're replacing most of the windows with windows that aren't the originals. So we're discriminating on what's going to show to the street. So in a way, yeah, we're keeping an historic look, but, and third, I kind of, I've owned a 100-year-old home in the Avenues. I'm kind of a skeptic that those are original windows that are 120 years old. So they've probably been replaced, but if they haven't, what we're replacing them with is still a double hung. It's still going to look like the same glass structure, the same structure to it. Is it the original wood? No, it's not the original wood. I'm not sure the original wood that's there now, and I just don't think that it materially changes the character of the property. The historic character I don't see being changed by these kind of windows coming in, especially when you're putting them on most of the house anyway. So I would disagree that I think it meets the standards to let them do what they want to do.
But my question is, the aluminum cladding over the wood, that's my issue. Isn't that problematic with our rules and regulations? Michaela?
Not necessarily. Kind of going back to Robert's line of thought, I mean, that would be a pretty big policy change for us at Salt Lake City, to say that replacement of original windows on the front facade meets the standards. On the front facade of an eligible significant building would meet the standards in the ordinance. That would be a pretty big policy change.
But do we know,
for us.
because we're replacing original windows?
Yes.
So do we, I guess I would like to know
Those
that
are
we have evidence that they're
character-defining feature.
120 years old, because I kind of doubt it. The glass probably isn't, but that's not a big deal. But you think the wood framing on those windows was original?
That is our assessment, and
Well, that's what you, I know that's what you think. I know that's what, I'm not being critical of that. I'm just saying, I don't think people know that for sure.
I would say based on my experience and expertise amongst staff.
But I mean, it just comes a point where that just seems, even if that's true, 120-year-old, you know, you still got a historic house. It looks the same. It's going to have the same double-hung windows. It's going to, I just don't think it's material enough that we can require that people never upgrade certain aspects of a house. So anyway, I disagree with that, but I understand where you're coming from. Now, I'm not opposed to, look, I put in some Pella windows recently in a house I just renovated, and the aluminum ones are, you know, you kind of have to go up and look to know the difference sometimes. But are they wood on the inside, or are they aluminum on both sides?
It's wood with a cladding.
Right, it's just clad on the outside, and you know, they're such a good product these days. But if it got this commission's vote, I'm not opposed to having them be wood on both sides, but I would let them replace the windows.
Michael, can I pick on you, please?
Sure, yeah. I guess what I'm reflecting on is the material, I guess, the character-defining features as a material or character-defining features as an appearance. And it seems to me that, at least in my time on the commission, the decision has always been towards the material and not the appearance. So for me, I'm leaning towards the staff recommendation that, you know, these, while they might appear similar to the original character-defining features, they're materially different. And that seems to me that the way that this commission, at least in my time on it, has always tended.
The aluminum clad?
Generally, these old original windows are old growth wood. If you've restored a window, which, you know, I have, she has, it's pretty amazing once you take an eco stripper. You can grab your carbide scraper and see the most distressed window and have this Zen moment where honestly there is perfect for underneath there. So it's about retaining original materials and also retaining architectural features that we still have that make this a significant contributing building. Once it's lost, it's gone. Now, if they were to restore these front windows, and our policy is to be strict on the front of the building and to let secondary and tertiary original windows be replaced and to really stick to that policy. Certainly, if the applicant were to find a skilled contractor, get that eco stripper, honestly, we have some in the office and we're gonna start handing those out to the public, and they find some serious deterioration, we're not going to say, oh no, absolutely, you have to put in a dry rotted window. We would help them with epoxy, we would advise them. And if it was a situation that they were really, truly that deteriorated, we would go to the next step, like sash
Well,
kits or like for like
It kind of looks
before
like
full-on replacement.
when you go by, they look like they're rotted out and pretty awful, I must say. I'm just concerned, do we have aluminum facing the street or do we have wood facing the street? What you're talking about.
Mhm. So I'm gonna do this here. I'm just gonna read from page 39 of the report, the north elevation front windows. The 4 windows proposed for replacement are considered to be character defining to the structure. We all agree on that. The windows are original to the property. May or may not be original, but they are wood windows. The loss of these windows would alter the historic character of the structure. I will say that I've been like you, John. We've replaced in kind, wood for wood, on many historical projects, large and small, wood for wood. We've done that. Is it more expensive? Indeed, it is. But it is, just from what I'm reading here. That's when I look at this picture of this building, those windows are the defining character of this home. Period. I mean, it just is. Robert, I will just say that aluminum-clad wood windows, they look virtually the same. I would say that if you don't look closely, they do. But if you do think, I think they do look a little bit different. And so it's Michael, to your comment, it's material for material, and that's what that's what's been in place in front of us. That's what we're defining. That's my take and understanding of where we are.
So as you say that, it seems to allow the possibility of putting new wood windows in there. Okay?
Right. And
If they're
that's correct.
deteriorated beyond repair.
And doesn't this company advertise that they're famous for putting in wood windows? Your company? No, just nod.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Well, we can make them that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
can I continue here?
Please.
I think, I have some sympathy for what Robert was saying. I would extend that line of reasoning to other parts of the house. What do we do about a roof?
Talking about.
Meaning, you've got a historic house where the roof is deteriorated, and they're proposing putting in asphalt shingles because they're cost effective and they're durable. But the original house was cedar shakes. But they don't last as long, they take more maintenance, they're more expensive, they're using up an environmental resource. I'm just wondering, we wouldn't have a problem with a roof replacement. Where I look at the house there and you see an unreinforced masonry chimney, which another branch of the city would like to see that taken down so it's not a seismic hazard.
Or
braced.
We have a Fix the Bricks program, which we encourage
We brace the
reinforcement
chimneys.
of historic chimneys. We don't encourage tearing them down.
Yeah.
I can jump in on the roof comment.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
I'm just seeing
Yeah.
it's not real straightforward, but please.
I'm here. There are components of historic structures and contemporary structures that are sacrificial materials, right? A roof is a sacrificial material. It's there to serve a purpose for X number of years, and then it needs to be replaced. Historic wood windows were not constructed to be sacrificial materials. They've survived 3 times as long as traditional roofs, right, without being replaced. Typically, they're replaced because it's fashionable or a sash breaks, and it's the easier option than to repair. But the way that they were constructed was so that there could be intervention, right? Each window you could conduct an intervention and correct whatever issue is occurring with that window. Roofs, yes, you can have an intervention, but you can only have so many, and then you just need a new roof, right? Windows, You can do Dutchmans, you can do a lower sash replacement, you can do a number of things, epoxy repairs. Some windows I've seen haven't been necessarily old growth wood, and they have been beyond repair, right? Because they couldn't withstand our temperamental climate here in Salt Lake City. These are not the worst I've seen, these windows, but that's not to say that they're not in need of some intervention. Does that help address that question?
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
But they're not, in your opinion, beyond repair.
That's my opinion. They could consult with a carpenter that conducts these types of assessments to engage in a rehabilitation of those windows. And if he came out or she came out with a differing opinion, I think we would analyze that. So
This question doesn't pertain to our decision exactly, but I'm curious how it got to the point where these windows are ordered and on the way without this approval being in place.
I informed the applicant to not order the windows, but they were ordered prior, I think, to the submittal of the application. We inform all applicants to not order any material until they have their approval or their building permit really in hand, because things can change.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Very well. So Carlton, I'm going to ask you because I think I've not heard from you on this issue.
Sure. I actually lean somewhat towards Robert's point of view and to Kenton's point of view on materials, and that certain elements of a building may be sacrificial and meant for replacement, but if our focus is on materials, then it should be replaced with the same material. So I don't find that being convincing. In reading the report and the standard as it's written, or more so perhaps the way it's phrased in the report, that it's a character-defining feature. For me, it's not so much the material that defines the house as the appearance overall. And wood and aluminum does have a slightly different appearance. But if the windows in this building were painted green like the frames were, I don't think that any of us would know the difference, to be perfectly honest. I do wish that the report had some close-ups of the condition of the window frames so that we get a better idea of what the material condition is and some sense of what we are discussing, because at this point in time, it's a bit abstract. We rely on your expertise, and that's great. We definitely should, but some visual evidence of that would be beneficial. I was a little surprised looking at the brochure, in my view, how similar in terms of profile the aluminum-clad windows were. I don't think that it would be a significant change in the structure to replace the windows with this particular material, in part because there's already been defining character that has been lost previously. Clearly, the stained glass is gone, and that's not going to be replaced. And there is a line for me at some point where we're recreating history but not preserving history. When we talk about the glass not being important and replacing that, I do think that actually is important to the conversation, because if you replace the glass and you do rebuild a big chunk of the window, are we preserving the windows or are we simply recreating the past? And I think there's a difference in terms of preservation between those two things. So I'm actually a little more concerned about the door. I don't think a full light is quite historically appropriate. A three-quarter light is. 1909 construction, that time frame, three-quarter light glass doors were not uncommon in the avenues and other areas of the city. But I have less concern actually about the windows, acknowledging that wood would be great. From my perspective, it's not absolutely necessary.
Commissioners, any other comments?
I'd like to, I was glad to hear from Michaela in terms of reinforcing the city's perspective on this in the form of the ordinance, and until the city feels strongly enough to consider changing the ordinance, it seems that we are in a position where we need to abide by that. I do agree that from a distance, when you're looking at windows, you probably wouldn't notice the aluminum. Yes, the durability, the quality, that's all there. However, that's not, I think we're here to look at the ordinance and how this matches up, and I think it's a good discussion to have, because I think, yes, recreating the past versus preserving, that is an interesting discussion, and preservationists can get a little narrow-minded at times, I do believe, or very, very steadfast, and you have to keep that balance between the past and the present and looking towards the future. So a comment as much as anything.
But this might be parsing words. Is this an ordinance or a guideline? With the sense of an ordinance being a mandated yes and no, a guideline being we would suggest this versus that.
It's a city policy.
Policy.
Mm-hmm.
How does a policy differ from an ordinance? Maybe that question's for Robert.
Well, these standards are all very subjective anyway. It's not like interpreting a statute, so.
But it is the city code, and we do have design guidelines so that we stay consistent with city policy, which is guidance. You should repair before replace. Secondary, tertiary facades, we can be much more flexible on preserve character-defining features, such as windows and doors and other components, because they affect the physical integrity of the building. I respect this conversation. I think it's also a great opportunity for us to talk about code and talk about policy and talk about consistency. I am concerned about precedent. We do have building technology individuals with graduate level degrees, that do look at these, Kelsey being one of them. I mean, obviously we have the city expert, we also have, I don't see that we have any other expertise, and the burden is on the applicant to provide that expertise to the city to say these are deteriorated beyond repair. Let's look at next level. We have a window replacement company, no offense to you, sir, selling replacement windows in our districts.
Very well. All right. I'm going to ask for a motion, and I do have our motion sheets here if anyone needs those.
I have a question. Do we want to separate out the windows that the city has approved and the door and these 4 windows? How do we want to do this?
The motion sheet does indicate, Babs, that there's a motion to approve in part and deny in part. So that's been accommodated. So we can do exactly that.
I think the motion sheet handles that. It's in 2 parts.
It is in 2 parts.
Let me pull up that motion sheet just in case this gets hairy.
Commissioners, can I hear a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. Based on the analysis and findings listed in the staff report, the information presented, and the input received during the public hearing, I move that the commission approve the request for a certificate of appropriateness, PLN HLC 2022-00367, in part for replacement of the windows located on the eastern, western, and southern elevations and the front door. The commission finds that these windows and front door comply with the standards of approval for a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to a contributing structure located at 1243 East, 200 South. Based on the analysis and findings in the staff report, the information presented, and the input received during the public hearing, I move that the Historic Landmark Commission deny the request for a certificate of appropriateness, PLN HLC 2022-00367, in part for the replacement of the windows on the northern elevation front. The commission finds these windows fail to substantially comply with the standards of approval for a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to a contributing structure.
Very good, John. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. Yeah.
Very good. All right, there's been a motion presented and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's go in order, please. Babs?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Robert?
No.
Kenton?
No.
Carlton?
No.
Michael?
Aye.
And Amanda?
Aye.
I have 4-3.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
And I'm only to vote in a tie, and this has been, there are 4 votes affirmative and 3 votes in the negative. And even if I were to vote, that would not be the tiebreaker. So the motion does not pass.
It does pass.
It does.
Oh, excuse me, the motion does pass. Sorry.
It's all right. All right. Our next item will be presented by Grant Amen. He's one of our newest Salt Lake City Planning Division planners. So welcome, Grant, to the Landmark Commission.
Thank you so much, Michaela. It's good to be here. I'm having fun. If you'll excuse me, I did just want to swap the order of one of my slides quick.
No.
I call him.
I've dealt. It's a great product, and Pella has wood windows. Yeah.
We'll try to do some education.
All right. Good evening, Commission. My name is Grant Amen. I'm from Salt Lake City Planning and Zoning. I'm excited to present item number 2 for you tonight. Architect David Richardson, representing the property owner, is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the reconstruction of a garage with the addition of an over garage ADU in its place at 204 North Canyon Road. The existing garage will be demolished as part of this proposal. As part of this request, the applicant is seeking relief from the following city standards. A 10-foot side setback along the north property line. Applicant is proposing 3 feet to remain in line with the setback of the garage. A 10-foot ADU side setback along the same north property line. Applicant is proposing 6 feet for the second story. A height increase of 1 foot for a total of 21 feet. Staff is recommending the commission approve the request with one condition. The property is a contributing, I should say the principal property is a contributing structure to the Avenue's historic district. No alterations are proposed to the contributing structure on site. This project must be reviewed as a minor alteration. Here's a rendering of the proposed structure as viewed from the southeast corner, which could potentially be visible from the right-of-way. And then on this slide, you can see the garage that currently exists on the property there on the left. As can be seen from the right-of-way 4th Ave. Here you can also see the surrounding context for the proposed structure, including the home directly east of the garage, as well as Spencer Court, which is in fact a private road, despite its width and its appearance similar to an alley. Here you will see the property as viewed from Spencer Court, looking west, with the existing garage to be removed on the left and the neighboring residential space to remain on the right. This residential space is also a secondary residential space for its lot, since the principal structure of the lot also fronts on Canyon Road. Here is a view of the garage from the street. As you can tell, there's ample vegetation in space between the garage and the right-of-way. It makes it hard to see there. And as you can tell, the property is a corner lot that fronts on Canyon Road. It is Victorian eclectic and built in 1900 out of regular brick. This structure is contributing. The key considerations for analysis of the project are regarding lot and bulk standards from the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, as well as the design guidelines. First, the accessory dwelling unit ordinance specifies that buildings with a flat roof shall be limited to 20 feet in height. The proposed structure is 21 feet in height, which the applicant is requesting for a, quote, more proportional facade for the flat roof structure. It is noted that the primary structure is 32 feet high, and the proposed ADU will appear visually subordinate to the primary dwelling. Staff recommends approval of the height increase. Second, the accessory dwelling unit ordinance specifies that any ADU shall be 10 feet from any single-family dwelling on an adjacent property and 4 feet from a property line. The proposed second-floor ADU is set back further from the property line. If you can see that, yeah. Further from the property line than the first-floor garage. The first-floor garage is proposed to maintain the 3-foot setback of the existing garage. The first floor contains no residential space. The second ADU floor will be set further back at 6 feet from the property line. And then staff is recommending approval as the 3-foot main level will maintain the current setback without the need to place the ADU closer to the right-of-way than the principal structure is. And then finally, as seen in the staff report, staff found that the proposed building does meet the guidelines and standards for minor alterations in a historic district, and attachment E further discusses these. The proposed material and design will coordinate with the 4th Avenue well that is across the street to the west of the property. Staff has received no public comments regarding this structure. And then based on the analysis and findings outlined in the staff report, it is planning staff's opinion that the proposal complies with the applicable standards of approval, and therefore staff recommends that the Historic Landmark Commission approves the requested certificate of appropriateness with the following condition: approval of all final design details, including any specific direction expressed by the commission, shall be delegated to planning staff. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, and the applicant has also a short presentation if you would like to hear from him at this time. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
When I drove there, it looks like it's a 3-car garage now going in?
That's what's proposed, right? And currently existing, it's a 2-car.
Right, so that's a 2-car garage there. So it was just odd for me to try and figure out how 3 cars can fit in there.
Yeah, certainly.
But it will. Okay. Not
Well,
just for
3
mini cars?
Now, I know, right? It's kind of an optical illusion, but yeah, just normal cars.
And then because of that, the balcony faces west.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, and I'll show that as well.
Groovy. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Oh, it faces south.
Faces south, but there's part of it that also faces, the stairwell faces west. You got it, yeah.
This will be quick. You can just stay right there.
Okay, sure.
Well, good evening. My name is David Richardson. I'm the architect representing the owner here. I want to thank you, everyone here, for volunteering your time. After 7 years on your side of the table, it's really nice to be back on this side. And I say this every time I've been on this side of the table, that I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for continuing to support historic preservation by making this process, the landmarks process, essentially free to the applicants. I think that's a wonderful thing that the city does. Grant, your presentation was fantastic. Thank you. I only have 2 things that I'd like to elaborate on. And one is, and this is ironic for me personally, for those of you who knew me on the commission, our client really likes that well house.
And they think they really do. They really like it. They like the,
Be hard on it.
yeah.
I like it too.
Didn't it take like 3,
It's
4
amazing.
years to figure that one out?
I think it was 2 full years, yeah.
Must have been a great architect
yeah.
that worked on that one.
No, John, I know, John, you're on
yes.
this side of the deal with that.
Sorry. Fabulous, talented individual for sure.
So we're instructed to try and use some similar materials in detailing, which we did.
Is it going to be yellow?
It'll be the colors shown in the drawing.
Oh.
So that's what they chose. We didn't want it to match the main house. The other thing is that we really tried to be sensitive. It's a tight lot, and the lot's much smaller than it appears because the public right-of-way is very large there. It showed on one of the early drawings, one of the earlier photos here. We really tried to be sensitive to the existing, it really is an ADU to the north of this property. And I think we would have tried to push this thing all the way to the current setback, but we stepped it back on the second level to be respective of that building. And we also pushed back a little farther from the alley to make sure we had good light and ventilation into that one window that you saw in the existing ADU. That's really it. I think this is a great little project. It's a baby step towards increasing housing, a dire housing situation, and I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you for your time.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Very well, thank you. All right. Let's open this to public hearings for comments concerning this. And Cindy, I think you had some comments as well.
Yes, it was 3 years, and thank goodness we were rescued by some talent on the design of the pump building. So I have 2 things I want to share with you. One is that this huge public property, it's not an easement, it's public property that extends way into what you think is the trivate parcel. So there's much less land to work with here than there appears to be when you look at this corner property. I have a triplex across the street, and when Google Fiber came in and ripped out my landscaping, which doesn't show in the RLS but has been installed since then, there was no notice. And I frantically called someone at the city who could pull up the drawings, and she said, she knows me well, "Honey, you don't own under the eaves of your house." So, yes, it is. So the width of this lot is an issue. And the other thing, and this is just a personal thing that I have to mention, the framing in wood around the windows is what we commonly see in older houses when people buy windows that don't match the size of the opening. I understand why these windows, based on the interior use, aren't the size of the opening. I also understand that they're trying to break up the blank wall. But it's just one of my nerves about old houses that I like the windows to match the size of the opening. It's very old-fashioned of me. I think that maybe something other than wood, which won't hold up in our charming climate well, might work here. There are 3 of them, and I have different responses to each, the 3 which I won't impose on you. It's just one of my obsessions. Thanks.
Thank you. Were there any other public comments that we received? Michaela?
No.
Well, sometimes I get emailed in.
No, nothing, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Let's then go ahead and close the public hearing. Is there any rebuttal to any of the comments? I didn't think so. All right, let's open this to executive session. Let's have a discussion on this. I'm looking at you, Amanda, so can I ask you to start the discussion?
Are you trying to quiet me?
What's that?
Babs, are you trying to quiet me? I take
right.
offense to that. I feel like we're in good hands here. I feel like the city, the planning department has done a good job in terms of presenting the project. And I now know the background of the architect, and who I believe would be familiar with regulations and codes relating to windows, and et cetera. So, and I think, yes, moving towards one more tiny step towards additional housing that's done responsibly, I think is always a good thing.
Agreed. Any other comments, commissioners?
I have one. I guess I sort of agree with Cindy about the strangeness of having brick openings of one size and windows considerably smaller, but I feel like that's maybe a bit outside of our purview here, I think. I might appreciate some clarification on that maybe from Michaela or from someone else, but it seems like what's been presented to us is primarily about the setbacks. So I definitely, maybe that's a detail that will be worked out in consultation with the city. Yeah, I just like some clarification on that, I guess.
If the entire commission directed us to work on that with Mr. Richardson, and you allowed us to do that, and you were to approve this project, we would work on that with him. If that was your direction.
Yeah, from my point of view, I don't have any problem with the detail at all. It gives a little bit of definition and depth to the facade, so I would not want to interfere with that detail. But are they aluminum-clad wood? Okay.
And this is a new building.
As well.
There's a guy that'll sell it to you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna take a higher level here, and I don't have any issues with the detailing. That's really an architectural detail. I think at a higher level, at the 20,000 foot, I very much applaud and laud the ADUs. There's just a basic need in paying attention to the Chamber of Commerce and ULI and others. Even despite all of the construction of residential that has happened over the last 3 years, we've gained about 10 to 11,000 units. We're still 30,000 units shy of where we'd like to be, despite all of the construction that we see coming and going, from home to our offices. So I applaud ADUs. I think that the densification of Salt Lake is an appropriate thing to do, and this feels appropriate in it. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion, commissioners.
All right. Based on the findings listed in the staff report, the information presented and input received from the public hearing, I move that the Planning Commission approve the Plan Development Petition, PLNHLC 2022-00410 as proposed, subject to complying with the conditions listed in the staff report. Oh, look at that. Planning Commission, yes. We will amend that. I move that the Historic Landmark Commission, et cetera.
You beat me to it, sir. All right. So there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Very well. Let's go in order. Babs?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Kenton?
Aye.
Carlton?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And Amanda?
Aye.
Very well. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
I have a thing I want to say to Michaela, but she's
What?
on the phone,
Oh, I'm just
putzing around.
making night plans.
So you know how hard we work to get the historic designations put on title reports?
Yes, ma'am.
Not a ma'am. So in the meantime, here we are in the Historic Landmarks Commission, looking at historic properties, and we never get to hear the history. You have a blank face. So like the house on Second South, does it have a history? Was it owned by Brigham and two of his wives?
He has histories galore.
I know, so could we have
Do you
like,
want us to add more,
I would
like,
love a little history.
1970s
Yeah.
site forms
No.
and any ILSs? I mean, we can, it's so fun. And we're digitizing them all right now, so
Right.
we can add more in.
Yeah, I would love the
Just
history of the house.
Thank you, okay.
That would be
And Any
awesome.
other suggestions? I mean, I don't want to, I want to balance not taking up like too much
No.
time during a staff presentation, but
paragraph.
just, yeah, they're like one
Love
page
that.
or 2 pages.
I'm not even sure these people that come in here know the history of their houses. And that's a pretty beautiful thing. That's what we love about them.
I know.
Very well. Amanda.